Feeling inferior at his lack of participation in the Kira case, Matsuda decides to snoop around the Yotsuba group and do his own research. He finds evidence that Kira is in the building, but before he can act, he is apprehended by the 8 businessmen. Using the fake identity card Wateri gave him, he passes himself off as Mrs. Manager. He pretends to offer a deal involving her in their commercial campaign, while contacting Elle using his modified belt buckle. Following Elle's instructions, he then fakes his own death. In one of the group's later meetings, one of its members chooses to leave out of fear he may have to face the consequences of Kira's actions. The investigation team installs wiretaps and surveillance cameras to monitor the Yotsuba group. Ettings and are amazed at how openly they discuss their use of Kira. Light and Elle come up with a plan to contact one of the members of the group, Reiji Namakawa. Namakawa agrees to act as a spy and help postpone Kira's killings by discussing them at the meetings. Elle reveals that he still suspects Light as the first Kira by playing mind games with him. Afterward, Elle questions Misa and wants her to infiltrate the Yotsuba group to obtain information. Soichiro worries that even if they do gather enough information on the group, it will be difficult to capture all of its members at the same time. The third Kira sets his eyes on Misa after meeting her. While Misa is taking a break from meeting with the Yotsuba group, Rem contacts her. Misa is able to see the Shinigami, but her memories of being the second Kira do not return upon touching a portion of the death note that Rem has brought her. Rem then tells Misa about everything that has happened and that she must trust Light lest she be killed. Upon re-entering the room, she spots who the third Kira must be, Kyosuke Higuchi. Misa goes on a date with him and is able to obtain proof that Higuchi is the criminal Elle is looking for. Her ease in debt, mining who Kira is leaves Elle very suspicious, since he could not deduce it himself. After learning that Higuchi is Kira, Elle decides that the police must not apprehend him until they understand his killing method. He points out that this will be an advantage in curing society of Kira and proving that he has been caught. He arranges for Sakura TV to air a Kira special, where Matsuda will declare he knows the identity of Kira to lure out Higuchi. Having been granted immunity from prosecution, several of the businessmen trick Higuchi and lead him to follow Elle's plan. As the third Kira races to the television station, determined to kill the whistleblower, Elle and the investigation team watch his every move via cameras and wiretaps. While driving to Sakura TV, Higuchi talks with Rem about his situation. Elle, Light and Misa watch from the investigation team building and wonder who he is talking to. Elle wonders if Higuchi is talking to a Shinigami. Rem convinces Higuchi to go to the station, but he has his own selfish motives for doing so. Higuchi enters the station's offices and writes Matsuda's fake name in his death note. The team thinks he has just written a note to himself, but find his subsequent erratic behavior odd. Elle argues that Higuchi has attempted to use his killing method. Higuchi then makes the deal with Rem to obtain Shinigami eyes. A furious pursuit ensues when Elle realizes Higuchi can kill after looking at a person's face and orders the police to apprehend him. Higuchi is arrested on grounds of being Kira and causing multiple murders in the region of Kanto. After inspecting Higuchi's death note, Elle discovers that Shinigami do exist. While Elle is stunned, Light takes the death note from him and remembers that he is the original Kira. Light then kills Higuchi by writing his name on a scrap of the death note. It is revealed that when Light gave away his death note, he added a fake rule stating that, after having written in the book, its owner must continue to use it at least once every 13 days or perish. The investigation team reviews the rules written in the book and finds that they can do little to get rid of it. Meanwhile, Light orders Misa to recover the oath, a death note he had hidden a few months earlier. Misa makes a second deal with Ryuk for the Shinigami eyes in order to find out Elle's true identity. Elle asks Rem about death notes, but she reveals as lit. TLE information is possible to avoid implicating Light or Misa. Meanwhile, Misa begins to use her death note to kill criminals. Although Light denies Misa's involvement, Elle becomes very suspicious of H. And Rem realizes that it was Light's plan all along to endanger Misa so that Rem would sacrifice herself to kill Elle later. Light finds Elle on the roof of the investigation team headquarters. The latter laments how distant he is from other people and how often they, like most people, lie. When the two rejoin the rest of the team, Elle reveals that he is planning on testing the 13-day rule, the only thing currently absolving Misa. Before he can do so, however, Rem kills Wateri and Elle at the cost of her own life. After secretly snatching away Reem's death note, Light celebrates his victory in silence. The first half of the episode features Elle narrating the events of the first 25 episodes. The account of the Kira case is revealed to have been left behind by Elle as a record of his achievements as a detective. It is deleted by Light when he discovers it. The investigation team appoints Light as Elle's successor and agrees to not publicly announce Elle's death. Light resumes his executions with a vengeance, killing Iba, Wedi, and the remaining Yotsuba group. The show jumps ahead in time 5 years, depicting Light joining the National Police Agency (NPA) of Japan in 2012 at the age of 23. 5 years earlier, shortly after Elle's death, Elle's computer is shown automatically notifying an elderly man of Elle's fate. The man then reveals this information to 2 children. Orphanage caretaker Roger Ruby informs Elle's successors, Melo and Nia, that Elle has died. Relinquishing the opportunity to succeed Elle, Melo leaves the orphanage to pursue Kira on his own, backed by the American Mafia. Nia allies H. himself with the President of the United States. Along with Steve Mason of the FBI, he forms an organization whose goal is to catch Kira, the Special Provision for Kira (SPK). Melo abducts the director of the NPA and demands the death note under Light's task force's possession as ransom. As soon as Light discovers this, he kills the director. Melo then decides to kidnap Light's sister, Sue. Will is scrambling to find a way to rescue Sue. The investigation team receives a phone call from Nia, who reveals that he knows of Elle's death and that someone has attempted to replace him. Nia suggests he and Light cooperate to rescue Sue. Soichiro takes the death note to the exchange point chosen by the kidnappers in Los Angeles, but Melo's men hijack the plane he is on and drop him off in the middle of the desert. Light monitors his father via satellite, until he enters an underground facility. There, Soichiro exchanges the death note for Sue. Melo slaughters most of the SPK once he obtains the death note. Nia then proposes to Light that the two cooperate completely in the future, and shares his suspicions that Melo is playing a game to see who can catch Kira faster. Meanwhile, in the Shinigami realm, a Shinigami named Sido tells another, Ammonia Justin, that he lost his death note. Justin informs him that it was stolen by Ryuk and dropped in the human world. Light uses the death note to have a member of Melo's mafia mail him the address of their hideout. Sido sees the address and goes to find Melo, revealing to him that the 13-day rule is fake. Meanwhile, Light informs Ryuk that he will give up ownership of his death note and borrow Misa's. The next day, Misa, posing as Kira, calls the investigation team to tell them that she will give them her death note. She also tells them that most of the members of Melo's mafia will die on November 10 and that will be the best time to find the stolen death note. Upon receiving the second death note, Soichiro makes the deal with Ryuk to obtain Shinigami eyes. The investigation team storms Melo's facility on the set date. Soichiro comes face to face with Melo and reads his true name, Mihal Kale. Before he can write it on the recently recovered death note, however, Soichiro is shot. Melo escapes by detonating explosives and Soichiro is taken to a hospital, where he dies comforted by the knowledge that his son cannot be Kira because he can see Light's lifespan. Light returns Sidhu's lost death note to him. The President of the United States declares America's neutrality regarding Kira in Sakura TV's program Kira's Kingdom. Meanwhile, a scarred Melo uses SPK agent Halle Lidner as hostage to gain entrance into Near's headquarters and meet with him. Melo wants the picture Near has of him so that he will remain safe from Kira. In return, he tells Near about Shinigami and that some of the Death Note's rules are fake. Already suspicious of Light, Near proposes to the investigation team that they test the 13-day rule. But none of them believe that they should. In response to Near's actions, Light contacts the President of the United States, asking for information on the whereabouts of the SPK, and threatening to kill him if he does not cooperate. Later, Hitoshi Demegawa, the host of Sakura TV's show, goes to America as Kira's messenger and gives a worldwide broadcast inciting people to break into the newly found headquarters of the supposedly evil SPK. Demegawa commands Kira's followers to break into the SPK headquarters in New York, while Misa watches the scene on television, waiting to kill Near as soon as he exits the building. Near asks the Japanese investigation team to consider that Light may be Kira. He and the remaining SPK members then escape the building by dropping buckets of money out of the windows to distract the protesters. Aware that his team is beginning to doubt his identity, Light emails Misa with a new plan. Meanwhile, Aizawa offers Near information about the past investigation that leads Near to conclude that Light is Kira. Aizawa then tells Light that he would like to resume surveillance on Misa and him to help clear their names. Light does not object. Demegawa appears on television soon after, asking Kira's followers to donate money to build a temple to worship Kira. Disgusted, Light has Teru Mikami, the new owner of Mrs. Death Note whom Light selected based on his appearances in Kira's Kingdom, kill Demegawa. Back at the investigation team headquarters, Aizawa realizes that with both Light and Misa under observation, the new killings cannot be attributed to either of them. Tragic events in Teru Mikami's childhood convince him that God wants him to stand up to evil. As a result, when criminals everywhere begin to die, Mikami believes Th. at this as God's righteous judgment and becomes a frequent guest on Kira's Kingdom. After Light gives him a death note, Mikami becomes ecstatic and passes judgment on criminals in Light's stead. He chooses a new spokesperson for Kira, Kiyomi Takeda, who happens to be one of Light's girlfriends in college. Light realizes that he can use this connection to his advantage and sets up a meeting with Takeda, presumably for the benefit of the investigation. While the two meet, Takeda receives a call from Mikami and Light reveals himself to Mikami as Kira. They create a ploy to force the investigation team to remove all bugs from the room. After which Light tells Takeda that he wants her to be his goddess in the new world. Light then tells the investigation team that he will pretend to be Takeda's boyfriend to catch Kira. Elsewhere, Melo watches Misa, suspecting her to be the second Kira. Near goes to Japan, allegedly as bait for Kira, and Light silently accepts the challenge. Near ponders on how to beat Light, knowing that the one who is doing his will has Shinigami eyes and that the two communicate via Takeda. Following Light's instructions, Takeda asks Mikami to send her 5 pages of the Death Note. She tells him that he will continue his work in a fake book made to look like the real one. While walking to a broadcast, Misa runs into Takeda and rushes her, jealous that she is not the most popular star. Halle Lidner, who has been sent by Near to act as Takeda's bodyguard, stops her then, but Takeda meets with Misa for a girl-to-girl talk soon after. Lidner sits in with them. By the end of the conversation, Takeda is convinced that Misa is stupid and Lidner reports to Near about the love triangle between Light, Takeda and Misa. Elsewhere, SPK member Stephen Gavini confirms that Mikami is the new Kira, after watching him kill a man by writing something in a notebook. After Gavini's report, Nia decides that they must get close to Mikami, but carefully so that the Shinigami trailing Mikami will not warn him. Meanwhile, Aizawa marks several notepads before Light and Takeda meet, to determine whether or not they are communicating in secret through written notes. Takeda tells Light of her meeting with Misa. Annoyed at the trouble that both women cause him, Light assures her that she is the only one for him. He then writes a script for Takeda that makes it sound like she has agreed to help capture Kira. After the meeting, Aizawa's suspicions are confirmed. The SPK picks up Misa then, and when Light contacts Nia to tell him that they have lost track of her, Nia informs him that he has her. Meanwhile, Gavini searches Mikami's gym locker and finds the notebook. During a second visit, Gavini takes photographs of the names written in it. Nia determines that the handwriting is Mikami's. Now having everything he needs, Nia sets his plan in motion. Milu, with the help of his accomplice Matt, kidnaps Takeda in a daring operation, getting in the way of both. Nia and Light's plans to set up a meeting between the SPK and the investigation team. Matt is shot by Takeda's bodyguards and Takeda, prepared to face such an event, kills Milu by writing his name in a piece of the death note she managed to hide away. Once Light hears about this, he uses a piece of the death note of his own to make her commit suicide by setting fire to everything around her, including all evidence. Each having developed a strategy to bring the other down for good, Light and Nia finally meet face to face in an abandoned warehouse. Light brings out Mikami to have him write names of everyone but Light on his death note. Meanwhile, Nia is confident that the pages of the notebook Mikami is using are fake, revealing that he has tampered with them. All they need to do now is check whose name was not written to find out who the real Kira is. Light struggles to mask his glee as he thinks of how he already knew of Nia's actions and that had been why he had Takeda the real death note while switching Mikami's with a false one. As the seconds before the death note's power takes effect count down, Light declares his victory to Nia. Mikami's death note fails to work. Nia reveals that he knew about the fake notebook and had actually tampered with the real one. Mikami is restrained and, faced with Nia's undeniable evidence, Light breaks down and laughs like a madman. He confesses that he is Kira and attempts to write names down on a piece of the death note hidden in his watch. Matsuda stops him by shooting him down. Seeing Light ride on the floor in agony, Mikami kills himself, causing a commotion that allows Light to flee the warehouse. However, Light's wounds do not allow him to travel far, and Ryuk, as he had promised in the beginning of the series, writes down Light's name in his death note. Light dies of cardiac arrest, seeing Il's figure in front of him.